Welcome back to the Deep Dive. As always, if you're finding this deep dive insightful, please do hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below with, you know, what you're thinking about this topic or anything, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
So today we are diving into the fascinating world of Naam Japa.
Yes.
So for those who might not be familiar with this term, Naam Japa is the practice of repetitively chanting a divine name or a mantra.
Yeah.
And this practice, it finds its roots in various spiritual traditions, from Hinduism and Sikhism to Buddhism. It's really found all over.
It is. It's quite universal in that way.
Yeah, and it's said to have these kind of profound benefits. Things like dissolving the ego, leading to self-realization, and really just sort of like connecting you with something bigger than yourself.
Right, and it's really about connecting to the divine in a very direct and personal way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And to help us unpack this practice a little bit further, we have an expert joining us today. Welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm so glad to have you here. So let's start with the basics. When we talk about chanting from a philosophical standpoint, like what's the foundation that we're standing on here?
That's a great question, and I think one of the most fascinating concepts in Indian philosophy that relates to this is the idea of Shabda Brahman.
Shabda Brahman, yeah.
Yeah, it's the idea that sound itself can be a manifestation of the divine.
So the sound is divine.
Yeah, so it's not just, the words themselves, but the vibrational energy they create.
Oh, interesting.
And that can have a profound effect on our consciousness.
So it's like, think about like, certain music or certain sounds that like evoke very strong emotions or memories.
Exactly.
Like taking that idea and bringing it to the spiritual realm.
Exactly, and saying that through specific sounds, we can actually tap into a deeper spiritual reality.
Okay, so when we talk about Naam Japa, then we're not just, making noise. We're actually aligning ourselves with this ultimate reality.
That's right.
With Brahman.
Yeah, that alignment is really key to understanding the power of Naam Japa.
Okay, so we're aligning ourselves with Brahman through sound, through this vibration, through these specific names.
Yes, and through the repetition of those names as well.
Okay, so why the repetition? Like, why is it that chanting a name over and over again is considered so significant?
Well, I think that's where Bhakti Yoga, which is the path of devotion, really sheds some light on this.
Okay, Bhakti Yoga, the path of devotion.
Yeah, so in Bhakti Yoga, Naam Japa is considered one of the most direct and accessible paths to experiencing the divine.
Okay, hold on. You're saying it's the easiest path to experiencing the divine?
It's considered one of the easiest, especially in our current age.
Okay, because like, speaking for myself, I know it's very easy to get distracted even when I'm trying to just like focus on a single thought.
Right.
Let alone like chanting for long periods of time.
I understand, but that's actually the beauty of Naam Japa in a way.
Well,
because the repetition itself helps to quiet the mind and bring it back to that focus on the divine.
So it's like a constant reminder.
It is. It's like a constant reminder and a way to sort of cultivate that connection with the divine.
Okay, and this idea that it's the easiest path. And I mean, is there like scriptural support for that idea?
Oh, absolutely. In the Bhagavad Gita, which is, a central text in Hinduism.
Yeah.
Krishna says, "Those who always chant my glories with determination and devotion attain me."
Okay, so those who always chant my glories with determination and devotion attain me.
Right, and I think that really emphasizes that this practice is open to everyone, regardless of their background or their level of spiritual expertise.
It's about the sincerity.
Yeah, it's about the sincerity of the effort and the continuous turning of the mind towards the divine.
Okay, so even if my mind wanders while I'm chanting, it's that intention behind it that really matters.
Yeah, the intention is what's most important.
That feels very accessible.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we can get caught up in thinking that spiritual practices need to be very complicated or difficult.
Right.
But this is something that anyone can do.
Exactly, and there's another quote from the Bhagavata Purana that I think really speaks to that as well.
Okay.
It says, "In this age of Kali, the ocean of faults, there is one great virtue. By chanting the names of Krishna, one attains liberation."
Wow.
So in this current age, which is often characterized by distractions and negativity, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Chanting can act as like a powerful anchor.
So like we're in the Kali Yuga, this age of like strife and difficulty.
Yes.
And this is like the easiest path.
It is. It's considered a very powerful and effective path in this particular age.
So even though it's simple, doesn't mean it's not powerful.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so we've been talking about Bhakti Yoga.
Yes.
But is this concept of chanting like relevant to other schools of thought within Hinduism as well?
It absolutely is. It's not limited to just Bhakti Yoga.
Okay.
For example, Advaita Vedanta, which is a school of thought that emphasizes non-duality.
Non-duality, oneness of everything.
Exactly. In that context, chanting can help to dissolve the ego, which is seen as the main obstacle to realizing this oneness.
Okay, so like a bhakti yogi might chant to cultivate love and devotion for the divine,
Right.
but an Advaita Vedantine might chant to realize their inherent unity with the divine.
Exactly.
It's like the same practice can serve different purposes.
Exactly. And that's what's so fascinating about Naam Japa is that it can be adapted to different spiritual paths and goals.
That's really cool. And are there other examples like Advaita Vedanta?
Oh, yeah. Even in Karma Yoga, which is the path of selfless action, chanting has a place.
Karma Yoga, the path of action.
Right. It's about purifying the mind and detaching from worldly desires while engaging in your daily activities.
Okay, so like imagine you're, washing the dishes or you're doing something very mundane,
Yeah,
but your mind is caught up in all these anxieties and to-do lists.
exactly.
Chanting can kind of like bring you back to the present moment.
It can help you to perform those actions with greater focus and intention.
So it's about like infusing your actions with this sort of like sacred energy.
Yes, it's about bringing that sense of the divine into every aspect of your life.
And you mentioned earlier different ways to chant.
I did.
Like, can you explain that a little bit more? Like, what are the different ways to practice Naam Japa?
Sure. So there are 4 main forms of Naam Japa. The first is called Vaikari Japa, and that's chanting out loud.
Okay, chanting out loud, Vaikari chanting.
Yeah, like you might do in a group chanting or kirtan.
Okay.
Then there's Upamshu Japa, which is where the name is whispered more for a personal practice.
Okay, whispered Upamshu.
Yeah, and then there's Manasika Japa, which is considered the most advanced form where you chant silently in your mind.
Oh, the most advanced Manasika Japa.
Yeah, and then finally there's Likita Japa, which involves meditatively writing the name repeatedly.
Okay, so you're writing the name over and over.
Yeah, it's another way to engage with the mantra and to internalize its energy.
You said Manasika Japa is like the most advanced form.
Right?
But isn't it easier to get distracted when it's all in your head?
Well, it does require a higher level of focus.
Yeah, because I can barely like keep track of a grocery list in my mind.
Right, but that's where its power lies, because when you're chanting silently in your mind, you're weaving the practice into the fabric of your thoughts.
Oh, okay, so it becomes less of like a ritual and more of a constant state of remembrance?
Exactly.
Okay, so you've got these different forms for different intentions and levels of focus.
Right.
But what about the names themselves? Like, do people chant different names based on their tradition?
Yes, often the choice of name reflects the specific deity or aspect of the divine that a person connects with.
Makes sense.
So, for example, in Vaishnavism, which focuses on Vishnu and his incarnations like Krishna and Rama, you might hear chants like, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama.
Okay, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama.
Yeah, in Shaivism, which centers on Shiva, Om Namah Shivaya is a common chant.
Okay, Om Namah Shivaya.
And in Shaktism, which venerates the divine feminine, you have chants like Om Dim Durge Nama.
Okay, Om Dum Durge Nama. So many different names, so many different traditions. But if like the essence is connecting with the divine, does it really matter what name you chant?
That's a question that many people grapple with. And I think there are different perspectives on that. Some believe in the specific potency of certain names,
Okay.
while others focus on the universal sound as a gateway to the divine.
Okay.
So, for example, in Sikhism, they chant Waheguru,
Waheguru.
which is seen as a universal name for the divine.
A name for the formless.
Yeah, and even the simple Om is used across many traditions as a way to connect to the ultimate reality.
Yeah, Om, the primordial sound.
Exactly.
So it's kind of like, choosing a particular path up a mountain.
Yeah.
The peak is the same,
Right.
but the scenery and the challenges along the way might differ.
Exactly. So it's about finding what resonates most deeply with you and what feels most aligned with your own spiritual journey.
Okay, I love that. That's a beautiful analogy.
Yeah.
So it's not about like there being one right way.
No,
It's about finding what works for you.
exactly.
And before we dive into the effects of this practice,
Yeah.
you mentioned earlier that we also have some source material in Hindi.
Yeah, we do.
So what kind of insights does that offer into Naam Japa?
Well, that source really beautifully delves into the relationship between name, which means name,
Yeah.
and roop, which means form.
Naam and Roop.
Yeah, and it suggests that they are inseparable
Okay.
and that chanting the name can actually lead to the realization of the roop within one's heart.
So the name acts as a bridge to connect with the form.
Exactly.
The essence of the divine.
Exactly.
Wow, I'm really curious to learn more about how that works in practice, but I think that's a good place to pause for now.
Yeah, that sounds good.
We'll come back and explore that connection between name and roop in more detail. And we'll also dive into the specific effects that this practice is said to have on our minds and our hearts, and ultimately our journey towards liberation. But we'll save that for the next segment of our deep dive, so stay tuned.
Sounds great.
Welcome back to the deep dive. So before the break, we were talking about this fascinating connection between name and roop. The name in the form of the divine, and how chanting can lead to the realization of the form within one's heart.
Yes, exactly. It's like the name acts as a key to unlock that inner recognition, that connection with the divine.
I'm curious to dive into that a little bit deeper. How does that work in practice?
Well, the source uses a really beautiful analogy.
Okay.
It talks about a kite and its string.
Okay, a kite and a string.
Yeah, so the string represents name, and the kite represents roop.
Okay.
And just as the kite can't soar without the string, the form of the divine can't be truly experienced without the connection established through the name.
So the name is what keeps it grounded.
It keeps it grounded and connected.
It's like the lifeline.
Exactly.
I like that analogy. It's very visual, and it makes it easier to understand, how the name isn't just a label, but it's actually like a vital link to experiencing the divine.
Exactly. It's not just an empty word.
And does the source offer any real-life examples of this concept in action?
It does. It shares an anecdote about Mahatma Gandhi,
Oh, okay, Mahima.
where people didn't actually recognize him until his name was called out.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so it illustrates that even when someone is physically present, it's the recognition of their name that truly connects us to them.
So it puts them into context.
It does. And similarly, the source suggests that chanting the divine name brings about that recognition and connection with the divine form within our own hearts.
Oh, that's beautiful. So it's like the name serves as this key to unlock that inner recognition, that connection with the divine.
Exactly. And the source goes even further, and it claims that continuous chanting of the divine name is the ultimate yoga.
The ultimate yoga, that's a big statement.
It is.
Why would the source make such a claim?
Because it argues that chanting has the power to cleanse the heart and lead to self-realization.
And those are the ultimate goals of yoga.
Yes.
It's not about, the physical postures or the breathing exercise.
What does that?
It's about this inner transformation.
Exactly. And the source actually contrasts two figures, Changdev, who is a yogi with extraordinary physical abilities,
Okay.
and Gyandev, who is a devotee who focused primarily on chanting.
Okay, so you've got the physical yogi,
Right.
and then you've got the devotee.
And despite Changdev's impressive powers, it was Gyandev who ultimately achieved greater spiritual heights.
Oh, wow. So it's not about outward achievements.
It's not.
It's about the inward transformation.
It's about the inward transformation through the power of the name.
I mean, that kind of ties back to what we were discussing earlier about the ego,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not about these external achievements or abilities.
It's not.
It's about the inner work,
Exactly.
the purification of the heart through chanting.
Right. And that purification is what ultimately leads to liberation.
And I think that kind of leads into another effect that we were talking about earlier, which is aligning with cosmic energy.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit more about how that works through chanting?
Sure. So I think it's important to remember that sound isn't just something we hear, it's also vibration.
Vibration.
Yeah. Everything in the universe vibrates at a particular frequency.
Okay.
And the divine names used in Naam Japa are believed to carry a specific resonance.
So when we chant, we're not just making sound, we're actually tuning our own vibrations to align with this cosmic frequency.
That's the idea. It's like finding the right frequency on a radio to tune in to a specific station.
Okay, so we're dialing into the divine.
You could say that.
And when we do that, when our internal vibrations harmonize with this cosmic frequency, what happens?
Well, we become more receptive to the flow of cosmic energy.
So it's like this influx of energy
Yes.
that can manifest in different ways.
It can.
Like a surge of positive emotions or feelings of peace or joy.
Yeah, and even what some traditions call divine love.
Okay, so we've got purification of the mind, we've got dissolving of the ego, we've got alignment with cosmic energy, and then we have this divine love.
Yeah, it's a whole spectrum of effects.
And I want to talk about this divine love a little bit more because, we all experience love in our lives.
You do.
But what makes this divine love different?
Well, in the context of Naam Japa, this divine love is often referred to as prema.
Prema, right?
And it's described as a pure, unconditional love.
Oh, wow. So it's not just romantic love or the love you have for your family.
It's not. It's something much deeper and more expansive.
It's like universal love.
Yeah, it's a love that transcends all limitations and expectations.
And you're saying that chanting this simple act of repeating a divine name can actually cultivate that kind of love within us.
That's what many traditions believe.
It's amazing how something so simple can be so profound.
It is.
It makes you realize that the divine isn't something distant or unattainable.
Right.
It's within us.
It's within us waiting to be awakened.
And Naam Japa is like a key that unlocks that inner sanctuary.
It is.
Wow, this has been an incredible exploration of the effects of Naam Japa.
It has.
And we talked about purification of the mind, dissolving of the ego, alignment with cosmic energy, cultivation of divine love. All of these things are leading towards something.
They are. They're all leading towards the ultimate goal of liberation or moksha.
Okay, so let's talk about that. What exactly does liberation mean in this context?
So in the context of Naam Japa liberation or moksha is about breaking free from the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth.
It's about transcending the limitations of the material world.
It is, and realizing your true nature as a divine being.
So it's not just about escaping suffering in this lifetime.
No, it's about escaping the entire cycle of reincarnation.
And how does chanting contribute to achieving that liberation?
Well, I think it's helpful to think back to all the effects that we've discussed so far.
Okay.
The purification of the mind, the dissolving of the ego, the alignment with cosmic energy, the cultivation of divine love, all of these things, they weaken the karmic bonds that keep us tied to the cycle of reincarnation.
So it's like we're gradually chipping away at the chains that bind us to this material world.
Exactly. And as you purify yourself through chanting, you become lighter, less attached to material desires, and more aligned with the divine.
And through consistent practice, and in many traditions, through divine grace, you can ultimately achieve liberation.
That's the belief.
It's not about reaching a destination overnight. It's about embarking on this continuous journey of transformation.
Right, it's a process.
And purification.
It is.
And would you say that faith also plays a role in that process?
Absolutely. Faith in the power of the name, trust, and the path itself allows you to fully surrender to the process and to embrace the transformative potential of Naam Japa.
It's fascinating how this one practice, this simple act of chanting encompasses so much.
It does.
You've got spiritual discipline, you've got psychological insight, you've got a way to connect with cosmic energy, and ultimately a path to liberation.
It's truly a holistic practice.
It is,
Yeah.
and it makes you wonder, how did this practice come to be? Who are the first people to chant these divine names?
That's a great question.
Yeah, that's a question for another deep dive, perhaps.
Yeah.
But as we wrap up our exploration of Naam Japa today, I want to circle back to the core of what we've been discussing, this idea of connecting with the divine.
Yes, and at its heart, Naam Japa is about remembrance.
Remember.
It's about remembering your true nature, that divine essence within you, amidst all the chaos and distractions of the world.
So amidst all that chaos, the name acts as that bridge.
Exactly.
That link between our everyday awareness and the divine.
It's a thread that connects you back to the source.
Okay, back to that source.
Back to that wholeness and unity that we all long for, whether we realize it or not.
And what's so striking to me is just how accessible this practice is.
Yeah.
You don't need any special training. You don't need initiation.
That's the beauty of it. It transcends religious boundaries, cultural differences, even language barriers.
Yeah.
A sincere desire to connect, a willingness to repeat the name with focus and devotion. That's all that's truly needed.
And in doing so, you open yourself up to all these possibilities that we've explored.
Yeah.
Purifying the mind, dissolving the ego, aligning with cosmic energy, cultivating divine love, and ultimately moving towards liberation.
It's a profound journey, and it all begins with that simple repeated action, chanting the name.
It's amazing how something so simple can hold so much power.
Yeah.
It makes you realize that the divine isn't this distant or unattainable thing.
Right.
It's within us.
It's within.
Waiting to be awakened.
Beautifully put. The divine isn't out there somewhere. It's right here, right now, in the depths of your being. And Naam Japa is a key that unlocks that inner sanctuary.
I love that. And this has been an incredible deep dive into the philosophy of Naam Japa.
Yeah.
I feel like we've only just scratched the surface of this ancient practice.
We have, but hopefully this exploration has given you a glimpse into its depth and beauty, and perhaps even sparked an interest to explore it further on your own.
Absolutely. And as we always say here on the deep dive, the best way to truly understand something is to experience it for yourself.
I completely agree.
So if you're feeling called to explore Naam Japa, find a name that resonates with you and start chanting it.
Yes, with sincerity and attention, and just see what unfolds.
And if you do, we'd love to hear about your experience. Leave a comment below and share your journey with us.
Yes, we're always here to learn and grow together.
On that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive, but don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on future episodes. Until next time, keep seeking, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.